Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. I am sure you all know Project 2025, how the story started and how it spread across. And before people started knowing that a Project 2025 was a thing or is a thing. Now, I remember I brought a video about Project Esther some days back. But I told you people that I am not sure about this, but I will go back and look up for it and come back. And I did. We think Project 2025 is scary. This one is scarier because when you go to sleep, some people do not go to sleep. White people do not sleep. Why? They have a project and they have a plan. And that plan is something that they really do want it to manifest. Each time I see all this and I am like, who are the people sitting down to think about all this? Because there are some things you would think of to a law, to enact on human being. All I can say is that it takes only an evil person to think about all this, because if you are not evil, you won't be thinking about all this. This is really scary. When we talk about people taking away your right and all that, this one is very dangerous for everybody. Women, men, children, politically, spiritually, socially, it is very crazy. Stay glued. Let's get into this video.
So what exactly is the era being remembered when people say, make America great again? Was it the World War II era when America was a hero state? Were we actually a hero state at all? What exactly are we being asked to recall? A little background. Before World War II, the United States made it extremely difficult for Jews to immigrate to the United States. The Immigration Act of 1924 imposed harsh national origin quotas, sharply limiting immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe, where most Jews lived. The annual quota for all people, not just Jews, from Germany was 27,370. And when Germany annexed Austria in 1938, that same quota had to cover both countries. During the Holocaust, the U.S. admitted fewer than 30,000 Jewish refugees per year. Many years it didn't even fill those low quotas, thanks to bureaucratic red tape, anti-Semitic officials, and intentional obstruction. Between 1933 and 1945, the U.S. admitted only about 200,000 Jews total for all 12 years. That is a fraction of those who sought safety, while millions of Jews were being murdered. One tragic example, in 1939, the U.S. refused entry to over 900 Jewish refugees aboard the St. Louis. The ship was forced to return to Europe, where 250 passengers died in the Holocaust because the United States turned them away. Now, after the war, the quotas didn't change. The Displaced Persons Act of 1948 offered only limited relief, and that gave preference to non-Jewish and Baltic refugees. Jewish survivors, especially those still living in displaced person camps in Germany, were initially excluded from immigration to our great country. Yes, even then, in the wake of the Holocaust. And here's the kicker. A Gallup poll from 1946 found that only 5% of Americans supported increasing immigration quotas to help Jewish refugees. Make America great again. Look, friends, the bar is set so low, it would be ridiculously easy to make America good for the first time ever. We'd only have to grow a tiny smidgen of compassion. We can't make America great again, I'm so very sad to say, because we've never been great. If you'd like to support my work, consider a donation at coffee.com/Kelly Snyder, and please be a learner with me. Get curious.
This is a message to all the women globally. I just want you to know, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody is coming to save you. That is something that we as women know all too well. Nobody is coming to save you. Now, As I decided to go outside to meditate and to journal and to spend this new moon in an amazing mood and indulging in self-care, I found myself in the thinking process about Project Esther and how it's going to be affecting the world, not just the United States, but the world. And then it led me down a pathway of what's happening this September. What we've seen over the past 2 years with the attack on media was them attempting to basically silence us for the role we played in the most recent political shifts that we've seen overseas and here in America, right? And we played a vital role. American citizens played a vital role in the way things have gone over the past 2 years and the way things have shifted over the past 2 years, right? So with that being said, that tells us that we have a lot more power than they would like for us to believe. The government would like for us to believe. On October 7th, 2024, Project Esther was created by the Heritage Foundation. And for those who don't know, it's basically the Handmaid's Tale come to life. I need you to understand that the Handmaid's Tale was not a warning. It wasn't a guidebook. It was preparation. It was programming so that you knew that they had you on their radar, so that you knew what was coming, so that you knew and that your brain could process it and understand where you fall in line. Nobody is coming to save you. And the more everyone sits back or tries to ignore Project Esther and tries to pretend like this isn't going to, you've seen the men get more and more aggressive. I just watched a man leave his child on the front doorstep with nothing but a cell phone in the middle of the night and did not call the mother because he hates the mother more than he loves his own child. I'm watching every day more and more videos of men getting more aggressive. I saw a video the other day of a man mad because he spent $47 on a woman leaning out of his car, foaming at the mouth, ready to fight her because she didn't want to get in his car and have sex with him. Ladies, nobody's coming to save you. You cannot continue to rely on the ideology of, well, it's somebody else's problem. It's not my problem. It's not this, that, and the third. Because that same exact ideology is exactly how we got here. Having so many people look the other way is exactly how we got here. Having so many people feel like I'm undecided is exactly how we got here. And know this, as long as they will have control over women, they will have control over your children. And the disgusting, terrible, horrible things that we have seen in the news regarding what they're doing to the Palestinians overseas, the Sudanese, the Congolese, and what Jeffrey Epstein and everybody connected to Jeffrey Epstein has been doing to children will only increase in grandeur. They have shown you and told you to your face that they would rather hunch children than adults. That they would rather you get on your hands and knees and beg them for the nasty shrimps that they have between their legs and less than the bare minimum than to actually treat you like a human being. They showed you and told you to your face that they would rather rely on science to try and create humans than to treat you well throughout the process, the duration of you creating life. God gave you the power to create life, which means that you also have the power to. Food for thought. Y'all may want to start paying attention, because you ignoring Project Esther and all the things that are going on surrounding it. Project 2025 was just the first step. Project Esther is the next step, in which they attempt to Handmaid's Tale the entire United States. What's happening in September with TikTok in America and all the American servers being separated into one central platform outside of everybody else, baby, that's that's not so they can give you your own space. That's so they can turn the lights off while they destroy you. That's so the whole world can't see how they punish you. That's so that you can't tell the whole world what they're doing to you as punishment for you getting in between their plans overseas. That's what that is. They're separating our servers to punish you. Food for thought. Just thought I should let y'all know.
We have to talk about Project Esther. I'm feeling crazy because I just learned about this, and if I was any kind of lawmaker that wasn't Republican, I would be screaming about this from the rooftops. But I guess that is too much for us to ask right now. Project Esther is a brainchild of the Heritage Foundation. If that sounds familiar, it is because they also wrote and have pushed forward Project 2025. I'm reading from the Heritage Foundation website. Named after the historic Jewish heroine who saved the Jews from genocide in ancient Persia, Project Esther provides a blueprint to counter anti-Semitism in the United States and ensure the security and prosperity of all Americans. At face value, fine. Like, that's a mission that a lot of Jewish organizations have put out. Obviously, anti-Semitism is on the rise. It's a very real problem. Fine. They then go on to talk about the anti-Zionist and anti-American groups comprising the so-called pro-Palestinian movement inside the United States that are exclusively pro-Palestine and more so pro-Hamas. They are part of a highly organized global Hamas support network, or HSN, and therefore effectively a terrorist support network. Now, there was a report that came out about Project Esther yesterday because there was a congressional hearing where Republican members of Congress accused a lot of universities for not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism on their campuses. And after doing a lot of digging and trying to understand the brainchild behind Project Esther and where this came from and where it's going, this is clearly the entire blueprint of the propaganda machine that is Republicans trying to use a growing threat against Jews to their advantage. I read through most of Project Esther, and it was a painful read to say the least. Project Esther is basically a policy that is attempting to equate anything that is not blind support of the state of Israel with anti-Semitism, and it goes a step further because what it then says is anything that is deemed anti-Semitism, which is basically whatever the writers of Project Esther decide that it is, can then be punished with deportation and imprisonment. And they aren't really even trying to hide that, right? First of all, right away, the title has an error, which has been pointed out by many Jewish people, which is that the Heritage Foundation says that Queen Esther is a figure from the Torah, which she's not. And then it's divided into a few parts, right? I have it pulled up. So it starts by trying to define the enemy. As I said, Project Esther defines the enemy as a broad range of critics of Israel and any supporters of the pro-Palestinian movement. Notice that there's nothing about Jewish people in that statement. They use a lot of phrases like Hamas support organization, Hamas support network. They want people to hear these terms when they think of the pro-Palestinian movement. They want people to equate the pro-Palestinian movement with terrorists. And in doing that, they want people to understand that any support for Palestine or for Gaza is to not only be seen as a threat to Jews, but a threat to America as a whole. Then what gets even crazier is that they start to define who is in this Hamas support network. They describe it as a network where it's pro-Palestinian groups, National Students for Justice in Palestine, and then they also name a lot of anti-Zionist groups that many Jewish people are a part of. They name Jewish Voice for Peace, calling those organizations pro-Hamas. They also call progressive members of Congress, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, terrorists, which I can't even get into. But just to be clear, even being Jewish doesn't mean that you couldn't be a part of the Hamas support network. And they're not just arguing this in a metaphorical way. They're literally arguing that members of Congress, that organizations like Jewish Voice for Peace are literally connected to Hamas. The next part of the document goes into a lot of ideas for punishment once you've been labeled a member of this Hamas support network, which basically seems like it could be anyone who says anything that they don't like. They say that you can be deported, defunded, sued, fired, expelled, ostracized, and quote, otherwise excluded from what Project Esther calls open society. The woman who wrote this particular policy, the woman who wrote Project Esther, also came out and was very much not shy about how she would be redefining student protesters as part of a terrorist support group. She also mentioned how she would like the Heritage Foundation to not only go after pro-Palestinian supporters and critics of Israel, but also other progressive movements on college campuses that they deem dangerous, such as DEI movements or Black Lives Matter. Basically laying out a step-by-step strategy to define a network of targets, a network of people at their choosing, and then systemically eliminate or exclude those people from the American system, all in the name of anti-Semitism. Over the past couple of years, when I've spoken to people who are self-proclaimed Zionist Jews, who feel very threatened as a Jewish person right now and who feel very anti the pro-Palestinian movement, my argument to them has always been, look at the people who are aligned with Zionism in this moment, because it is not at its core Jewish. It is racist, it is Islamophobic, it is xenophobic, and it's mostly far-right conspiracy theorist Trump supporters. those are the people who are most closely aligned with Israel and the Zionist movement right now. And that's devastating because those people are using a very real issue of anti-Semitism to basically try to cut out anyone that they don't agree with, particularly on college campuses. And I didn't realize that the argument that I was making is actually to combat an extremely organized and targeted propaganda machine. People who are self-proclaimed Zionist Jews also love to say that the rest of the world is just falling for Hamas propaganda, that we're all being played by Hamas. When it turns out there is a very concerted think tank, very successful think tank that got Donald Trump elected as president, working in the name of anti-Semitism. Again, distracting from the very real issue of anti-Semitism in order to push their own agenda. We are all susceptible to propaganda, but there is no one more susceptible than someone who thinks they're not. I encourage anyone, if you have someone who is on the opposite side of the pro-Palestinian movement, someone who maybe just hasn't had a window in, talk to them about this information. Show them that there is a huge machine working to get them to hate anyone who says anything, even just in critique of the Israeli government. And I don't understand why we're not seeing more lawmakers or more Democrats in general speaking about this.
If you think Project 2025 was bad, you haven't even heard about Project Esther, and that's exactly how they planned it to be. They want you distracted by Project 2025 because while everyone's eyes are on that, Project Esther is laying the groundwork for something 1,000 times more dangerous. Think surveillance, suppression, sterilization, religious authoritarianism, all of the above. Project 2025 is the beginning of the manifesto. I don't think people realize that. And it's nowhere near as bad as what it could be. The targeting women, targeting queer people, targeting DEI, targeting anything that doesn't fit biblical values is the beginning to lay the groundwork for Project Esther. And it's not just a legislative plan, it's a theological one, which if you don't know what theology is, it's basically the study of God. It is, of course, backed by Christian nationalists, big surprise there. It has roots in dominionism, which basically is the idea that humans should have the ability to exploit and control other living things, including other humans, plants, nature, whatnot. In the realm of government, it essentially means the idea of conservatives, especially conservative Christians, to take control of secular civil government and use it as a religious force. Project Esther quite literally aims to replace the Constitution with biblical law. Not figuratively, I mean literally. It quite literally aims to do that. It calls for the things like criminalization of abortion as murder, a national ban, of course, mandatory submission of women to male authority, bans on anything LGBTQ+, think same-sex marriages, gender fluidity, all of it gone. Religious homeschooling to replace public schools and private. Literally, what a lot of Utah cults do think that. And yes, you guessed it, re-education camps for those who resist. They're not even hiding their agenda at all. And here's where it gets so much darker and where it physically makes me ill to think about. Project Esther claims to honor the legacy of Queen Esther, a Jewish woman who saved hundreds of her people from genocide. This same agenda is being championed by individuals and institutions deeply, and I mean deeply aligned with white supremacists and Nazi rhetoric, something that is very anti-Semitic. The Heritage Foundation, the writers of Project 2025, and Project Esther has time and time again backed figures who quote Hitler, push replacement therapy, and use Nazi-coded language like degeneracy, purity, bloodlines, whatnot. You get the point. So tell me how an initiative claiming to stand against anti-Semitism is supporting and endorsing people who glamorize the ideology that had 6 million plus Jews slaughtered. We're weaponizing biblical stories and structures to build a fascist empire. We're using the memory of Jewish suffering to cover up the reconstruction of the same blueprint that caused it. If that doesn't make your skin crawl, scroll it back and listen to it again. Unlike Project 2025, No one's talking about it. It's not being debated by any politicians. You don't see the media or journalists talking about it because it's not supposed to be passed through Congress. It's not supposed to go through legislation. It's supposed to seep into each institution quietly until it's too late for us to do anything about it. That's why it's so important that everyone knows about this. I need every single person to start talking about this, make videos about it. Like, this is such a horrendous plan. I kept telling people Project 2025 is just the beginning. You don't understand how bad it can get. This is the bad.
Remember in my last video I said, keep your eyes on the moving objects, because even though they want you to pay attention right here, in the media, wherever, there's something going on in the background, right? So here's why the thing that's in front of you is not just a distraction, it's possibly a cover, because while your attention is being pulled over there, they're doing something right here and over there. But right now we're talking about Project Esther. But what it feels like is like Operation Waterback. We gonna call it that. Just rebrand with a better website and a few headlines, right? Right? So let me try to put it plain. Like, ICE didn't hold a press conference. They didn't want your attention. They just rolled it out quietly, deliberately, and with precision, right? And who are they going after? Y'all should know this answer. Undocumented women and children. We know about the men, right? But mostly people from Latin America. Fast, silent, with no time for a warning, no phone call. You can't call nobody. They just snatching, detaining, and deporting. Not even checking, not even asking questions. Sound familiar? Because it should. Because back in 1954, they called it Operation Waterback. Y'all know the real word. Over 1 million people pushed out. Some were U.S. citizen, no trial, no process, no rights. 1954. Just like that. You don't belong here. And here we are again. It's the same play. It's the new stage. It's the same play. It's the new stage. But here's the twist. Project Esther is quiet. No barking orders, no mobs, just soft language, sterile policies, and a polished rollout. But don't be fooled. We shouldn't be fooled by this, because behind the curtain, mothers are missing. I've been asking y'all, where are all these women? They don't show any women. Well, what about the children who are crying because they're missing their families are being shattered in real time? And while the media is busy elsewhere, this thing is growing. People been saying this, like, think again. Visa overstays, work permits caught in backlog, students under review, your neighbor who's waiting on the green card. Project Esther starts with the vulnerable. But it won't stop there, right? Because this ain't just about borders. It's about control, right? Because fear and power is that thing. Fear the people, but take control of the people. It's the government testing how silence will swallow those in the vulnerable communities, right? What makes you think yours won't be next? How do we even come to this? See, I know what I'm capable of because I served the United States Marine Corps and also the Navy. So I'm trained to do certain things. So I've always been locked and ready, if you get what I'm saying. So what about other people? I don't know, y'all. I'm still looking at what this Project Esther is doing, but I'm seeing tears every day. And I feel like if it's not in your own backyard or on your front porch, people are not going to care. But wait until they pick up your multicultural daughter, son, grandchild, because they believe. I'm just leaving it right there. What are we doing, people?
Oh, you thought Project 2025 was scary, but you haven't heard about Project Esther yet, have you? While we've all been distracted worrying about Project 2025 and looking at statistics to see how much of it has actually come to fruition at this point, back in October of 2024, the Heritage Foundation submitted Project Esther, and I'm telling you, it's 1,000 times worse than Project 2025 could ever dream of. Project 2025 is just the beginning of this manifesto. And making a comparison, The Handmaid's Tale, that was the first book. The 6 seasons we watched, that was the first book. There are others. Just like Project 2025 was the prologue to what's about to happen with Project Esther. Reading Project 2025, it spoke very clearly about eradicating all religions from the United States. There will only be one God and one Bible, and it will be forced upon you. It is forced practice of religion. You will not be allowed to speak of any other God. You will not be allowed to read any material outside of that Bible. And if you try to practice anything outside of what you are forced to practice, they will imprison you and put you to death. Project Esther also speaks about surveillance. They want us having something inside of our bodies that is implanted, where the government knows our whereabouts, knows our medical history, our heart rate, our sugar, everything on a 24/7 basis. It talks about suppression, ladies. It talks about the fact that we are no longer considered people. We are the property of our husbands, meaning we no longer can drive, vote, have a bank account, go grocery shopping, wear what we want, have our hair the style that we want it. We are forced to be the property of our husbands. And women, it speaks about sterilization. It speaks about when women are born, when girls are born, being immediately sterilized after birth. And when you become of age to have a baby, they will grow said baby in a lab and implant it in you so that they can have the white male child that they want for this Project Esther to come to fruition. According to Project Esther, there is no more LGBTQI+. It's gone. It's eradicated because there are no more lesbian and gay people in the United States. That's right. If you're male and you're gay, you have an opportunity to become straight. And if you choose not to become straight, then you will be put to death immediately. And women, they don't really give a fuck if you're a lesbian or not because you still have a working womb. So you'll be forced to marry a man anyway, and oh well, just deal with it. Project Esther isn't just a legislative plan. It's a theological plan as well, with roots in dominionism. And if you don't know what that means, it means having control over all living things, human beings, plants, animals. It means that as a man, you control everything like a god. It states very clearly in Project Esther that it has been written to replace the Constitution of the United States with biblical law. That is the whole purpose of Project Esther. Criminalization of abortion with death penalty being the reward will be a national thing for all of us. It won't matter state by state anymore what your governor and your senators say. As a nation, abortion will be criminal and you will be put to death. All public and private schooling will be completely eradicated. All children will be homeschooled through religion. And the best part, chat, for anybody who resists, for anybody who defies this particular law, there are re-education camps to repurpose your brain, to make you more compliant and willing to be a servant of Project Esther's law. By the way, none of this is written in code. I'm not assuming or coming up with ideas based off what I read. No, this is quite literally how it's written. Very, very, very blunt for all of us to completely understand what we're about to face. Project Esther, like Project 2025, was written by the Heritage Foundation, so it's obviously backed by Christian nationalists. But it is so deeply rooted in white supremacy and Nazi rhetoric that it literally makes my skin crawl. And if it doesn't make your skin crawl, I need you to go right ahead and run this shit back and listen to what I said again.
Project Esther is not just about anti-Semitism. It's not about anti-Semitism or protest. At its core, it's about obedience and submission. What's happened in Palestine it's terrible. It's gut-wrenching. But also, make no mistake, this is a warning. This is what happens when you say no to your bully. This is what happens when you don't submit. Now, here comes Project Esther into the chat. I believe it's twofold. Silence those who speak up for Palestine and other oppressed nations, and shut down the information that wakes others up to the truth. You can't talk about genocide. You can't talk about protest. You can't question the narrative, or they'll call it hate speech, terrorism, or material support for Hamas. But let's be so for real. This is not about safety. It's about censorship. It's about submission. It's about stopping a generation from asking questions like, wait, who did this? Who did this to this world, and why does it look like this? Because a lot of people are waking up not only to the bullshit that's going on, but spiritually. And they're realizing this isn't supposed to be this way. And Project Esther is a last-ditch effort to crush the global voice before it fully remembers its powers.
These are the different ways that Project Esther plans to achieve its goals. So its priorities are as follows. Number one, they're going to expose the critical resources fueling anti-Semitism by gaining a comprehensive understanding of the infrastructure that sustains individuals and organizations supporting Hamas. Number two, mobilize a coalition of private organizations. They're going to build and coordinate the efforts and activities of private organizations in the U.S. to achieve combined effects. Number three, erode support for anti-Semitism. Exploit fissures within and among anti-Semites and affiliated organizations and their target audiences. Number four, synchronize coalition actions to maximize impact. Orchestrate actions and activities across society in collaboration where appropriate with federal and state government to achieve the desired impact and align resources toward priorities. Number five, focus. Disrupt and degrade networks and deny them the resources they need to conduct and sustain anti-Semitic behavior. Number six, communicate. Erode support for anti-Semitic behavior. Expose the individuals and organizations supporting such language to discourage it, and laud the individuals and organizations effectively countering it to encourage others to join. And to be clear, when we're talking about anti-Semitism here, we're talking about folks who are pro-Palestine. And the idea is that if you're not for Israel, you're against it, and therefore against you're anti-American as well. And so there are many of us who do not support genocide, and therefore we are deemed anti-Semitic according to the Heritage Foundation. And that is very dangerous territory to say that if you're not this, you are this. And there are just so many
This is
shades
all
of
I
gray.
got from this video, and all I can ask is, how do white people wake up to think about all these things and come out to say them? How do they wake up? How do they sleep? Because it will absolutely take a horrible person. I have to use this. Like, my face was all, I don't know, all my, how do this, it looks like they are not sleeping at all. Like, the way you go to sleep to rest, they don't sleep. How will they sleep? They are looking for one project to bring. See, one thing I have noticed is that when Project 2025 started, the truth is that black people saw it. I don't even know how they saw it before people started hearing it. Because people didn't even know at first till they started talking, and then everybody wanted to know what Project 2025 was, even the white people. Then everybody started analyzing. That was when we knew that there is problem. People did not take it serious because they were like, wow, it's one of those things they say and it never come to pass. To my greatest surprise, I knew, because something that I have known so far is the fact that I have listened to black people. There is nothing that they analyze that does not happen. It is only a dumb or someone that doesn't listen that will not know. So when I was also going through that, I was like, how will somebody survive this? But let's see. Okay, let's see. Let's vote right. This was everybody's talking point, because you cannot see that Project 2025 and not want to vote right. Project 2025 is scary, but Project Esther is scarier. So you can imagine what is going on now. Hey, sincerely speaking, when they say you go to sleep to rest like normal, the way Republican, you went to sleep and they went to vote against, they vote so that the list wouldn't come out. This is what they do. And I am going to ask, Why is it that what is going on in the Middle East, they are trying to enact law in United States? Because this would be one of the stupidest thing I have ever heard, that Israel is fighting, or maybe Palestinians are having a rough time, and they are enacting law for you in United States so you will not say free Palestine. Is it United States of Palestine, sorry, Israel, or United States of America? Man, there are so many big fish to fry. This country is really crazy. Women, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. And this was one of the things they were avoiding. Black people saw this thing so much. They tried so hard to avoid this. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. This is a project, from what I am saying, this is a project to control everything about you. Your speech, your body, how you act, everything. Because what is this? I mean, people really need to create awareness. People need to talk about this. People need to know this. This is very important that people get to know. For those that are saying MAGA, 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 do you people know what you are MAGA in first? Because majority of you are uneducated, not just being uneducated, politically illiterate. Because sometimes it's not about going to school. I have seen people that did not go to school and they are well polished, politically smart, outspoken, all of it. But this is, you guys are politically illiterate. You don't know anything. The only thing you care about is this or this. If it's not this, it is nothing. It is not good. As long as it's this person, that is great. That it's okay. Let's go ahead. Let's forge ahead. Ahead. When it is hurting you. Because it's not only going to affect you, to affect you too. To affect you. This kind of discrimination does not have color. It's like living in bondage. They are just going to bond you. This is what they are doing. You will not have any say. You cannot speak out because you have no right to speak out. They are already coming. Bye for now.